Since you asked, this is a story from my childhood that always haunted me when I was alive. My family chucked it up to my imagination, but I can assure you that it was real. As real as it feels for you to be holding that torchlight or putting on your clothes, or looking at the screen communicating with me, like you are now. And as you proceed, I ask you to be unbiased in your judgment of the paranormal. My idiot older brother and I were getting ready for our last Halloween in Hampton. We'd be moving back to our family farm in Minnesota next week, and this was going to be the last time we could go trick-or-treating with the kids from our neighborhood. I was getting dressed up as the Grim Reaper, you know, from the show Billy and Mandy. My brother, on the other hand, took Halloween way too seriously. He always tried to outdo himself from the previous year, and that year, he had ordered a custom costume that oozed out what looked like blood when the costume was touched. I absolutely despised his passion for the macabre, but him and a couple buddies of his were all doing custom costumes together that year, so I suppose it was his way of having fun with the boys. Anyway, I had dressed up and impatiently went downstairs to look for my brother. The trick-or-treating had already started outside and I could see some of the kids were out and about knocking on doors. I was told not to go outside without my elder brother chaperoning me, as my mother had been called to the ER at the last moment. I was getting impatient waiting for my brother, and being the thirsty little kid I was, I decided to head into the kitchen and to grab myself some Capri Suns from the fridge. I was viciously slurping down my favorite chemical juice in my cheap black robes, holding my plastic scythe under my arm. It was then that the kitchen lights went out. And I vividly remember dropping my juice box and screaming as I felt a cold pair of hands on my shoulders. I still remember seeing the wet, bony hands on my shoulders as I screeched and ran out of the kitchen towards the front door. As I frantically tried to unlatch the door that was a bit too high for me, I saw the kitchen lights turn on, and my idiot of a brother crawling out, laughing profusely. I instantly knew what he had done, and began crying. I was so scared and irritated at him that I had completely lost any interest to go outside, and I ran upstairs to my room sobbing. I don't know what my brother did after that, but he tells me that he stepped outside to see his friends for a few minutes and then came back into the house to order pizza. His story adds up, cause I remember receiving a call from my mother who told me she was on her way home and that my brother had told her what had transpired and had even gotten grounded for it. She then asked me if I was okay, and being a little embarrassed at that point of time, I remember lying to her and telling her it was not that bad, and that I was okay. She told me that my brother had ordered pizza for us downstairs, and urged me to have dinner on time cause it was a school night. I remember not being hungry that night, so I had decided to wait for my mother to come home first. As I slipped downstairs, I found the television was turned on and was weirdly enough playing some old Christmas movie. I only remember sinking back into the couch and getting lost in the movie, cause I didn't notice my brother around. About 15 minutes into the movie I felt cold and looked around for a blanket. My household usually had some laying around everywhere, but that night I couldn't find any. I slipped my toes underneath the couch cushion to warm them up as I felt a cold hand touch my shoulder. I immediately noticed at the sight of my eyes that it was my idiot brother and whacked his arm as hard as a little girl could in a fit of rage. My hand hurt from hitting him too hard, and it got slimy from touching his stupid custom costume, so I quickly ran into the kitchen to clean it up. Now, this would be a moment I'd never forget in my life, and to this day haunts me. There in the kitchen was my brother. Costume off, eating pizza on the dining table. I stood in front of him shocked. He looked at me surprised. I remember stuttering to tell him something, though I couldn't recall what exactly I was blurting out. I still felt the pain in my hand radiating from my palm like I had slapped it against a wall really hard. The slime almost dried up on it. I eventually asked him if he was in the living room, to which he quickly responded that he had been in the kitchen all this while, heating up some mac and cheese to go with his pizza. The thing is, I didn't have to ask him. I knew he was telling the truth. There was no way he could have ran back into the kitchen and get his costume off so quickly to pull off a stunt like that. And moreover, my brother wouldn't dare disturb me like that again after my mother had told him not to. So what exactly did I touch in the living room? What did I actually see in the corner of my eye? I mustered up the courage to run back into the living room. Now that I knew where my brother was, I looked towards the couch where I had been sitting. There was nothing there. Just the television playing itself out. My mother came home that night a little late, and I was still awake. I remember telling her what had happened to me, but she chalked it up to my kid brain, and that I had let Halloween get the best of me. I'd have trouble sleeping for the next few days in that house, but forgot about the incident as soon as we moved back to Minnesota. I suppose I blocked it out of my memory. I only remembered the entire ordeal when I found an old selfie my brother and I in those costumes that my mother had taken that night a few short minutes before she was called into work. I had never seen that particular picture before, but I noticed something about the metadata on the photo itself. ISO 800, denoised, 8:45 p.m., October 31st, 4 faces detected. Only 3 of us lived in that house, at the time,